can't buy anything in the temple for Roman money. You must change it for our shekels. You know that.
Good, and it's cheap. But if you don't like it, I'll show you another one.
Turning the house of our Lord into a marketplace. It's a shame.
Little odds. Don't dare.
Get the same rate at all the other stalls, my friend.
It comes to 10 shekels and a half.
Take 2 instead of 1. The Lord will be grateful.
2 fine lambs, 2 fine lambs.
I did this trick to read it. Money and preach somewhere else.
Jerusalem! The faithful city! She that was full of justice has become a harlot! Stop him! I do not know! I do not heard! Has it not been told you from the beginning?
What are your multitude of sacrifices to me, says the Lord? Bring forth no more offerings!
A den of thieves!
Man, he's not the prophet.
To Trunews, your alternative source for world news, analysis, and commentary. I mentioned on Monday's program a number of things that happened in recent days that, when combined, clearly indicate that the United States of America has moved into a war alert status in regard to Iran. First, Iranian banks were kicked out last Saturday from SWIFT, the international bank wire system. Barring Iran from SWIFT will be viewed in Tehran as an act of war. A former Iranian intelligence minister said Iran would be justified in retaliating by shutting down the Strait of Hormuz. Second, Iran's oil board stopped accepting on Tuesday U.S. dollars for purchases of Iranian oil. Third, Iraq took action to divert Iraq took action to divert the flow of its oil through overland routes as Baghdad anticipates that the Strait of Hormuz will be closed. Fourth, the U.S. Navy beefed up the number of mine-sweeping naval vessels in the Persian Gulf. Fifth, Prime Minister Netanyahu gave a warlike speech to the Knesset last Thursday, preparing the Israeli people for war. He linked Iran to the rockets being fired from Gaza into Israel. Six, Israeli news reports said Mr. Netanyahu now has an 8-6 majority in the Israeli cabinet in favor of war. 7, Barack Obama signed a national security document on March 13 called the Continuation of the National Emergency with respect to Iran. 8, 3 days later, Mr. Obama signed the National Defense Resources Preparedness Order, giving the executive branch the power to control and allocate energy, production, transportation, food, and water resources. When you put all these things together, I think the conclusion is obvious. We are in a state of war. I was told by a Texas businessman who's been in the oil trading business for decades that if the Strait of Hormuz is closed and the USA loses 2 million barrels of oil per day coming into the country, he said that the impact will be catastrophic. He said, Rick, that's why Obama signed the executive order to seize all modes of transportation. Well, my friends, we are living in a dangerous time. And some days I feel like a radio newsman broadcasting in 1939. There's a Great Depression underway, and a world war is on the horizon. Well, the man who can make sense of all this craziness is on the telephone. Gerald Celente is recognized worldwide as a leading authority on forecasting and analyzing trends. He's the author of Trends 2000 and Trend Tracking, and the publisher of the newsletter Trends Journal, the website trendsresearch.com. Gerald, are we close to a world war?
I believe that if they continue in the direction that they are, it's precisely what you laid out. It's a replay of the 1930s. The timeline is almost identical. Figure it out. What did we have? The crash of 1929. From there we go into the Great Depression. From there you have currency wars. Sound familiar? Going on now. And then you have trade wars. Talk of that is ratcheting up. And then what they do, they take you to World War. So here we are, the Panic of 08. And the Great Recession / Depression. There's a depression going on. There's a depression in Greece. There's a depression in Spain. There's a depression in Ireland. There's a depression in Portugal. There's a depression in Lithuania, Romania, Bulgaria, Hungary. There are depressions going on around a lot of places around the world.
Gerald, one thing that I've noticed over these years of broadcasting is that whatever the crisis is, they take it right up to the brink, and somehow these guys manage to pull a rabbit out of the hat, and they buy some more time. How do they do this?
I really blame it on the people. How could people let these politicians get away with this? And, you know, they call this upcoming election, for example, the people are already saying, I'm going to vote for a lesser of two evils. How about the worst of two jerks? I mean, really, what self-respecting person would have anything to do with a lesser of two evils? Evil's evil. You know, it's like almost pregnant.
I agree. I have never voted for the lesser of two evils.
So I blame it on the people. Mm-hmm. This is really it. You know, there's that Hindu saying, when the student's ready, the teacher appears. When the people are ready, the leadership will appear. It's up to the people. I mean, the people aren't, to me, where's the morality? What are we, 8 years into this Iraq war? What, 45 people got killed last week or something, or the other day? The Afghan war is going into its 11th year. Where's the outrage? Where are the protests? Are they not us that's getting killed? So what? And look what they're doing to our soldiers, using them as pawns to fight this useless war. You don't see any of the senators' sons there.
No, but they know how to manage the emotions and the thinking of the public, and it's like they have their hands on knobs and buttons, and they can adjust and regulate, and they can manipulate the thinking of hundreds of millions of people. They take them up, they take them down, they walk. You know, it's like a game to them, and they've turned this into an art.
Well, they have, but again, there's always going to be the people, you know, that are snooky stupid and watch Jersey Shore. There are always going to be the people that can't wait to turn in to watch the Kardashians. And you're not going to get them. Where I see the problem is at the 20% that know better. You know, they say that Hitler came into power with 10% of the people behind him when he first came into power. The people that have the intelligence and the integrity, to me, aren't stepping forward to make the necessary change. They're already compromising along the lines. So yes, they have the power to manipulate, but we also have the power of free will and the spirit within us to guide us. And that's what I see where the deficit is. I blame it on the people, not the politicians.
I do too, because if only 10% of the public simply stopped participating in the system and just said, that's it, we're not doing anything until this regime boards jets and flies to a safe haven. If only 10% of the people did it, the regime would fall.
Exactly. And not only would the regime fall, so would Walmarts, so would Starbucks and Dunkin' Donuts. So would a lot of them if more and more people supported their local merchant rather than buying things from multinationals that only drive down wages and lower quality. So the people aren't taking the steps. And again, that's the way I see it. You know, and I don't tell people what to believe. That's just my viewpoint. And until the people change, nothing will change. It's not only the immorality at the top of government and the banksters or the money changers, as they should be appropriately called. It's down to the welfare cheat, the person gaming the system to go on disability when they don't need to, or anybody else ripping somebody else in the office or in daily life. So until the morality changes, Rick, I don't see anything changing.
Gerald, on the topic of the banksters, Several weeks ago, the feds finally got a conviction on Alan Stanford, the Texas billionaire that built a banking empire in the Caribbean. And before they arrested him several years ago, not one person had lost a dime in his bank. They simply said he was running a Ponzi scheme. They arrested him. They seized all of his assets. They destroyed his banking system. They kept him in jail from 2009 until they just finished a trial 2 weeks ago. They wouldn't let the man out on bail. He got beat up several times in jail, almost killed. Even if he was found innocent, there was nothing to go back to. They had destroyed everything. Now, I don't know if Alan Stanford is a crook or not. I'm just saying that prior to his arrest, not one person had lost a dime in his banking system. But what I do know, Gerald, is that John Corzine is walking around as a free bird. And there's a lot of people that lost over $1 billion because of MF Global. Why is this clown still walking around?
Because we're running a criminal operation over here. And that's the way I look at it. And as you may know, I was hit by the MF Global takedown, and they went into my segregated accounts. So it's the word justice means just us, Justus, not them. And not them has a free ride. And that's what's happened to this country. And that's what I'm talking about, the immorality. Have you seen one major head on Wall Street fall? Not a one. Because Lloyd Blankfein is doing, quote, God's work. And Mayor Bloomberg recently said that even God would have a difficult time in convincing people of what Goldman Sachs is doing and how he could straighten it out. Yeah, because even God couldn't fix hell. I mean, I'm tired of these people bringing God into this situation. But no, the whole thing is a criminal operation from top to bottom. And that, to me, is how could anybody believe this stuff anymore? The whole game is rigged. How much more proof do people need? It's in front of them every day. Whether it's the Federal Reserve loaning trillions of dollars to their buddies at low interest or no interest, whether it's the ECB doing the same thing, whether it's Goldman Sachs gang paying $550 million fine, but admitting no wrong and nobody doing any time, and it's a virtual slap on the wrist for them. The whole game is rigged.
Gerald, do you think the victims of MF Global are going to get anything?
Well, I got back about 2/3. But it's a big deal. I got back 2/3, but I lost all my positions, and I took other losses when they closed down the accounts. And as you pointed out, how come John Corzine hasn't even been brought in for questioning by the authorities? Oh, when he goes up to speak in front of the House of Representatives, he's not John Corzine. You look at the sign in front of him, he's the Honorable John Corzine. Yeah, that's right. The honorable piece of crap. But that's what's going on in this country. And I have to tell you something else. People are saying to me, Mr. Celente, you're sounding angry. Oh, yeah? Guess what? I am angry. And if Jesus Christ could become violent and picking up a whip to drive the money changers out of the temple, I could become angry at them. And people have lost their anger. Everybody's become politically correct. You know what politically correct is? Politically correct means you're not allowed to tell the truth and you can't feel your passion. That's what politically correct is. I'm disgusted with this country, with the men in this country, what's happened to them. There's hardly one of them in Congress. They're like little girls. This whole nation, they bow to Hillary Clinton and Obama. You talked about Iran. 100% of the Senate voted for those sanctions against Iran. Where are the people in this country standing up and speaking out? Because they're just going to get mowed down.
I can't imagine these kinds of actions taking place in this country in the 1950s. I mean, there would have been armed American men in the streets. This stuff would never have happened in the 50s. The American people would never have permitted this type of criminality to take place. So somehow they've been dumbed down. Somehow they've been neutered, and the testosterone level of the American men has been wiped out. They're willing to take this. They're willing to accept it. And until Americans say, I'm not going to accept it, I'm not going to tolerate it, this stuff is going to continue. There will be no change.
We'll go back to the 50s. Who was the president? Dwight D. Eisenhower. Who was he? Oh, he was only, a 5-star general and supreme commander of the Allied forces in Europe? The guy that, instead of campaigning like a bunch of these morons on the primary show, on the presidential reality show, he was over in North Korea ending a phony war that was started for stupid reasons, that was just slaughtering American soldiers. Oh, and who was Eisenhower? Oh, a 2-term Republican president? And the man that at the end of his term said that the military-industrial complex was taking over the country? Eisenhower? Compare him to the commanders and chumps that we have now. Bush Jr., Obama, Clinton, all of these big-mouth little chicken hawks screeching about going to war. They've never been in a schoolyard fight, let alone a barroom brawl, and they're quick to send other people to go do the dirty fighting for them. I mean, it's a disgrace. Anybody that wants to go to war, man, woman, boy, I don't care who, pack up your stuff and leave. All these senators talking about what we have to do in Iran, go over there and lead the charge and send your money, send your wife and send your kids. Keep me out of your psycho trip.
Gerald, to change the subject to gold, there were some really bizarre actions in the gold market at the end of February. In fact, I think it was on Leap Day where gold dropped about $100 an ounce. Any doubt in your mind that was a manipulation of the market?
The whole market is being manipulated. There's no question about it. It is not in the best interests of the European Central Bank that just pumped out 1.5 trillion euros to their buddies in the banks. Hey, don't worry, pay me back in 3 years, hardly any interest rates, or the Federal Reserve dumping this money in here to see gold prices go higher. Because that money, that paper money to me, isn't worth the digital paper it's not printed on. So I believe that the entire gold market is being manipulated. They're doing everything to keep the run-up of gold going higher, because the higher gold goes, the more transparent it becomes what a big Ponzi scheme the whole business operation, the finances of the world are. Now, by the way, China's slowing down. Now they, too, are loosening monetary policy in rural banks and other banks to keep the Ponzi scheme going. So there's all of the central banks, it's in their favor not to see gold prices go higher. And I'm in it for the long term. I make it really clear 80% of my holdings are in gold. I don't give investment advice. Only speaking for myself, gold is for my golden years.
Gerald, I saw in today's Wall Street Journal that Turkey is taking action now to persuade their citizens to move their privately held gold into the Turkish banking system. Is this going to be the trend in the coming years? The governments are going to start taking actions to gain control of privately held gold?
Why would you think anything like that? The governments are taking control of every aspect of our life. And that's what the people don't understand. It affects every fiber in your body if you're an awake person or even half dead. And who are the governments? Well, who are the people that we have elected? They're the same people you couldn't stand in college and high school that wanted to be class president, the head of the student council. That's all they are. And these are the people that were the glad-handers, the suck-ups, the bow-downs, the insincere, and the overly ambitious. We have a handful of people. You name the country: Turkey, Russia, U.S., UK, Germany, France. What do we have in America? A gang of 535. 535 congressmen and senators telling us how to tie our shoes and what else we should do with our lives. How could people tolerate this? Where is the dignity and the courage and the self-respect and integrity of people to let these clowns tell them how to run their lives? Of course they're doing it in Turkey. They're going to be doing it everywhere because the money changers are in control. This is old as the Bible. I didn't make up the story about Christ chasing the money changers out, the Prince of Peace losing it, becoming violent. Why did he become so violent? Because of what it does. Because the love of money.
I absolutely agree. It's the only time in the Bible that Jesus Christ became angry.
The love of money, the root of all evil. And it's right in front of us. How far do people have to look? They could look back, and they could see it, or they could look forward into today, and they could see it again.
And I have a feeling that God is waiting on the people that use his name to show some of that righteous anger towards the money changers. And I think he'll back us up if we get out there and start cleaning the mess up. It's, King David said that he got up early in the morning to chase the criminals out of Jerusalem. I mean, Gerald, it's biblical.
I know.
It's a biblical thing to get angry about criminals and chase them out.
I know. And this is what I'm saying. Oh, this is the other thing, Rick. I'm tired of all these politicians using the name of Jesus Christ when it's convenient for them. Like, just to give you an example. I hear this Santorum talking about God all the time. Oh, God this, God that, Jesus this, Jesus that. Let's bomb Iran. Hey, wait a minute. What Jesus are you talking about? I mean, you can't have it both ways over here. And they're all doing it. I heard President Obama, the prayer breakfast, saying that we should all embrace the words of our Creator and love thy neighbor as thyself. Yeah, except if it's Iran, where you're sending predator drones into Pakistan and into Yemen and killing people without trials. Well, what neighbor are you talking about? How come there's no outrage over there? And I'm tired of these phony preachers saying the same thing. I hear them all the time. So this is blasphemy, and not only that, it's stopping us from advancing to a higher civilization. The past is in the present. It's here in front of us. It's the love of money, the root of all evil. Do I love money? I enjoy having money. I like not having to worry about paying bills. I've had my ups and downs in life. It's very nice to have, enough to make it happen. But I don't need more than I need.
Those are good words. Gerald. My guest today, Gerald Celente, the website, trendsresearch.com. And I encourage you to become a subscriber to the Trends Journal newsletter. Gerald, thank you. Appreciate you being on True News today.
Oh, thank you, Rick.
Well, that's the True News version of a world newscast for Thursday, March 22nd. Did you learn more from True News or CNN, Fox News, the BBC, or CBC? We work very hard to fearlessly report the truth, and we do it with very little financial resources. In America, many of you will sit in your living rooms tonight and watch the big network newsmen and women